And welcome back, everybody, to GSA SMO action. So we have now with us some triple bingo. Round two, I believe this is the first match of round two, actually. I'm on commentary again, and joining me for bingo this time is going to be Kerbis54. Kerbis, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready for some hot late night bingo action.
Some hot bingo action. I love it. I've actually really taken a liking to bingo lately. It's very exciting from all perspectives. As a player, routing everything is very unique and interesting. As a commentator, it's kind of fun to be able to try and manipulate and see what these runners are going to do. And from a perspective of a spectator as well, it's just very exciting stuff. Our match today is in between one of the greats of bingo, you could say, in Super Mario Odyssey, that being Bry Guy in blue. Hello, Bry Guy. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. A bit nervous, but excited to show off some bingo today.
I believe this is your first match of the tournament so far, yes?
Yeah, first one.
So anything particularly nerve-wracking? I have noticed that you've been doing some practice with Zimpars as of late. Is there any routing concerns that you might have?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about my routing. Less so about my gameplay. I haven't been playing too much Odyssey recently, sort of been kicking it back up for the bingo tourney, but yeah, I think that's where Stravos can really catch up to me, being world record holder in world peace and just all around incredible player. It's I hope my routing is enough to give me an advantage to carry me through this match.
That's right. I think that there is kind of a contrast to be held there. You can get away with a little bit more spaghetti in something like bingo, but of course, if you do have very tight movement, it can catch you up. And I think that segues perfectly into your opponent. In red, we have Stravos, who is one of the greats in some of the more standard categories in this game. Stravos, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm feeling very confident. I got very good movement. I've been studying a lot lately. Got my routing skill up to par. I think I can get this win pretty easily. Actually, I think it'll be pretty simple.
Very, very confident coming from Stravos. Now, you do say that you've been doing a lot of practice in this. I noticed that your strategy, it seemed from the last one, was to try and kind of streamline the any percent into your routing. There were a couple of kingdoms that you had to do very little as far as the bingo board was concerned, and it was just kind of get to the end. Do you think you're going to have the same approach this time, or is it going to be more of like a trying to manipulate the kingdoms in a way that's a little bit more traditional to the bingo style?
Well, if the opportunity presents itself, I will try to do a little bit more any percent style stuff, or like just stuff that I'm more comfortable with. Like I do have one of the main things that I didn't really have to work on at all when learning this was all purple coins routing, so that'll be pretty simple for me as well. So any percent plus all purple coins, I got some good routing for that worked out. But ever since last race, I've really been working on other routing combinations as well. So I'm pretty prepared. It's just I still might take a minute or two at the start to route things together. My one weakness is looking at the board in a way that makes sense to me. It's still weird.
Totally fair, and I think that it was kind of an interesting thing to see at the beginning of your race, but whatever kind of makes the puzzle pieces click together, that's kind of what you got to do, I suppose. Now, that being said, are there any combinations that would scare you, or is there anything that you would hate to see on this bingo board coming up here?
No, not really. I mean, maybe Puzzle Room and Lake, actually. But that's pretty much it.
All right, that does sound fairly confident from Stravos' end. So this could be a very, very close race. We'll have to see. Thank you guys for your pre-interviews. I think we can get set up to start this race just about now. And good luck to the both of you.
Yeah, good luck, Stravos.
Good luck.
All right, and as they exit the call, they will be asked to get to their starting positions. Stravos incredibly confident in this race. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's some confidence I've not seen from anyone in this tournament so far. And I know he did not have such confidence in his first match, so that tells me that he's put in quite a lot of work in order to get to a point where he's improved a lot of bingo in preparation for this match. Because as you kind of mentioned, Bragai is sort of considered, in my eyes at least, one of the 3 best bingo players in Odyssey. But yeah, as he said as well, he hasn't been playing the game as much, so we'll see if he shows any signs of rust here.
Yeah, there's been some, from what I have seen anyway, some kind of casual practice with Zinpars, who is another kind of great as far as bingo is concerned. And, you know, maybe not playing the game quite as much as Stravos, but Stravos is, of course, coming from a place of optimization as far as regular categories are concerned. So his movement is definitely going to be in a league of its own, whereas Bragai is definitely more versed in just being able to thread everything together. So it's a very good contrast. And I think we saw a little bit of that with Stravos' last race against Arrow Razor, but in this particular situation, Bragai is in a league of his own when it comes to bingo. So this could be a very exciting race indeed. Do you have any predictions?
Well, in my official tournament prediction, I had Bragai winning this matchup, but you know, after seeing that display of confidence, I'm a little shook right now. So
I am too. I actually don't know how to feel about it, to be honest. So
it could all, you know, it might be the mind games, or he might actually have improved quite a bit of bingo. I don't know what he's been working on personally, but that seemed very real. That confidence did not seem faked whatsoever.
Indeed, and I think that Stravos is very honest about what he's capable of as well. He's very technical as well, so we'll just have to see.
Yes, and as we see, bingo card being revealed here, these runners are going to be frantically skimming over it as they run through Cap Kingdom. And the first thing I always like to look at is, what is the center square?
That's exactly what my eyes drift to as well. You can see 18 moons in Lost. Lost being a very short kingdom with not a whole lot going on in it. I think the total moon count on a revisit in Lost is 21. So 18 moons is actually cutting it pretty close as far as getting everything in the Lost Kingdom.
And Stravos right there going for the life up heart in Cap Kingdom.
Very smart move. And you can see that 6 unique life up hearts is actually the corner square, which I think the corner squares are the second most important compared to the middle square, mainly because they are going to synchronize with the middle square as well as provide the most line combinations. So 6 unique life up hearts, getting that just in case maybe he hasn't completed his routing, but getting it in order to maybe prevent a cap revisit in the future.
Yeah. I think much like grabbing the checkpoint in Cap Kingdom, it's a little more out of your way to grab the life up heart, but if you see it on the board, it's definitely a good play because it's only going to cost you a couple seconds, and it could really wind up making a route click better for you later on. So I think that couple second sacrifice is worth it.
I would definitely agree. Now, scanning across this board, I can see a couple of seaside squares, not anything from snow by the looks of it. So it might actually be rather easy to avoid having to go to seaside at all. I am seeing a couple of lost.
And another thing I'm noticing on this board is the one square that Stravos said he might be afraid of is on here, the puzzle room in Lake.
That is true.
So we very well might be seeing him create a route that avoids that square. And luckily, it's not, as you said, it's not a center square, it's not on the corners. So it's only going to affect row 1 and column 2. So if he is looking to avoid that square, he only has to avoid those 2 lines of the board.
And taking a quick glance at it, actually, I would say that that particular spot is not in a very optimal location for this board at all. It's in line with World Peace in Metro, which is not something that you really want to typically go for ever, except for maybe a festival finish, I would say,
very
as well as
circumstances required to go for that goal in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's also in line with regional coins in Seaside, and with the options available on this board, Seaside is probably not going to be the end point, so may not be seeing that puzzle room this time, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of combinations that we have here. Lots of moon goals, notably in Lost, lots of Lost goals in general, actually.
Yeah, which could make that, if there's a lot of other stuff you need to do in Lost Kingdom, it makes that 18 moons in Lost that much more enticing. Because it is already the center square, and if you kind of have to travel to every little corner of Lost Kingdom anyways, it's probably a good idea to pick up those 18 moons, because as you said, it is tight on moon count in Lost Kingdom, but with Lost being one of the more fairly compact kingdoms, getting from moon to moon doesn't necessarily take all that long. So
Yes.
it could wind up being a good thing to go for, and especially because it would allow you to avoid that puzzle room. Like, there are a lot of options to utilize the center square, which is why it's so good.
Yes, absolutely. It being the most versatile, you've got the column 3, row 3, and both of the diagonals at your disposal. If you choose that square, it kind of sets yourself up to have to do less achievements in the end, if you so choose to do that. I'm noticing that there's also 30 regional coins in Lost in column 5 and row 3. There's also row 5, column 5, which is Captain Toad in Lost. There's lots of synergy with Lost, and just kind of making it work around that. Some of the other Lost goals are not necessarily in optimal places, however. I'm noticing.
Yeah, one of the tricky things about bingo, there might be a lot of goals that overlap on a board, but they aren't necessarily always smart to go for because they might be kind of blocked by other bad squares that you really want to avoid more so than you want to do the actual squares that overlap. So it's all a fine balance of avoiding the things that are bad on any given board and utilizing things that are really good, which certain boards can be very tricky to balance.
Absolutely. And the final time really kind of depends on the synergy of the board as well, because you can get really lucky, have yourself like a Lost finish that everything just kind of all nicely lines up in certain kingdoms. You might even have a kingdom where you just do any percent and you finish at like a 45, and then other times you'll have a board that forces you to go to one of the end kingdoms and doesn't synergize very well in any way, shape, or form, and you kind of just have to do a bunch of odds and ends tasks and finish just under an hour. So it really depends on the board. We see right here at the beginning that Stravos is dumping 4 moons into the Odyssey. I don't know if maybe he was planning to leave, but he is going to have to stick around to gather at least 1 more moon. Bry Guy opting to do this sub area, which makes me believe that 4 moons from sub areas in Cascade is on the table for him.
Yes, which could also mean he's trying to overlap it with 14 moons from sub area games total. I am noticing that those 2 goals are kind of associated with pretty heavily with seaside goals as well. So I don't know if he is in fact going for those. It probably means that he's going to be utilizing a seaside visit to finish his bingo, which
Yes.
There are, it looks like 3 different seaside goals on this board. So when there's that many, it can be hard to avoid them without going for some otherwise very slow board or very slow goals. So we might just see him kind of cut his losses, either one of them cut their losses and take the seaside finish. Sometimes winds up being faster than trying to avoid it, go too far out of your way.
It's true, and I think in this situation that might just be the thing to do. It's not necessarily the slowest thing to go all the way to the end, because it might actually mean that you get to do some of the other kingdoms really fast. I'm noticing that there's 8 moon seaside and also 5 ground pound moon seaside, which means that as long as 5 of those 8 are ground pound moons, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone there. And the other one is seaside regional coins, and there's a lot kind of centered around the beach house. So if you utilize that to your advantage, then you'll be good to go there.
So Bry Guy is going to take the first square on this board with the 4 moons from sub areas.
Yes, it does appear that he is going to be marking that off and utilizing it. I also watched him go around the back way of Cascade and grab the life heart that is up near the Madame Brutal fight, so it's very likely that he's going to be going for that goal as well.
Now, Bry Guy did not grab the life up heart in Cap Kingdom, correct?
I don't think he did. I think he's going to be having to find another one somewhere else.
So that's kind of, like we said, if he would have grabbed that, it could have saved him quite a bit of time here, because it is one of the fastest ones that you can come across. Fastest life up parts. So he's going to have to replace it with one that's probably a lot slower. And it'll cost him, pretty much guaranteed to cost him some time, because he either has to go back to Cap Kingdom for it, which I don't think would probably happen on this board, because you don't have any other explicit reason to go back to Cap unless you're doing the 8 moons and Cap goal. But that's something we'll have to wait and see. We don't know what kind of route he's looking to go for yet.
Yes, that's right. And 8 moons in Cap in itself is kind of a scary goal to go for anyway. There's not very many moons in Cap.
Yeah.
So you really kind of have to be on top of your knowledge, and it has to synergize well, and it doesn't really look like there's anything that would benefit going back to Cap in this route. So hopefully...
Cap moons are generally kind of slow, but if he utilizes the moons there for a lot of his sub-areas, he could make it work.
That's true, there are 6 sub.
If he is in fact going for the 14 moves from sub-areas total. So that's one scenario where I could see that working out. But
potentially.
That
one goal he did mark off is in line with Seaside goals, though. That means he'll be at least going to Metro, and there are lots of sub-areas in Metro as well. So we could see many opportunities here, especially with 24 moons in Metro on the board. Lots of synergy there, doing sub-areas in Metro as the extra moons.
For sure. Metro is a very sub-area heavy kingdom, where if you're not doing story moons, to reach 20, you kind of have to go into at least 1 or 2 sub-areas.
Yes.
So, if you're getting extra moons in Metro, that just makes it even more likely that you're probably going to be, going into at least a handful of sub-areas there. So that's always kind of my go-to kingdom when I need a lot of sub-areas, because I believe there's something like 14 sub-area moons available without even getting world peace.
Something like that. I think you're right.
So quite a heavy load of sub-areas. You can complete basically that entire sub-area goal in one kingdom. Now, not all of those are fast sub-areas,
but most of them are, actually.
A lot of them are decently quick, yeah.
Like, I can think, for example, the one that they do use in any percent is a good example. It's just a quick timer challenge and a jump up to the roof.
And the bullet building is probably the other one that is the fastest in Metro.
Yes.
Yeah,
and looks like I'm taking Contra around the Sand Kingdom here. Just doing a bunch of miscellaneous moon grabbing. We did see Bry Guy get the slots unique life up heart there. So I think that's 2 for him now.
Yeah, there's not too much on this board in the way of multi-kingdom goals. So you don't see stuff like 7 timer challenges or 5 notes moons, stuff like that, where you have to kind of keep track across multiple kingdoms in order to complete a goal. There's only a few, such as the life up hearts and the sub-area moons.
Yeah, and maybe stickers, I guess.
Yeah, and costumes, but generally kind of not a heavy board on those kinds of things. There's a lot of very one kingdom focused goals, which can be kind of awkward, but it's easier to keep track of, so less of a chance of you doing something unintentionally slow compared to a board that would have a lot of multi goals on it.
Yeah, because I find that when I have those multi-kingdom objectives on, I tend to kind of do them really front heavy. I'll try and knock them off as early as I possibly can so that I don't have to worry about them later, but that kind of it also kind of eliminates the opportunity that maybe there was a faster one of those later on, such as timer challenges or something, right? So you kind of it's always tricky because it is in the moment, but those are the kinds of things you have to think about in order to optimize your bingo strategy.
For sure, and I think that's a natural tendency when you're not as familiar with what exists in every kingdom, is to try to knock things out as soon as possible. So you might do something such as getting the 2 timer challenges in Cascade Kingdom, even though it puts you over the number of moons that are required to leave,
right?
As opposed to getting timer challenges later that you might not know about, such as the one in the Deep Woods in Wooded Kingdom, or going all the way to Seaside and getting a timer challenge there. Usually would wind up being faster since you're not getting an extra moon. But it's all stuff like that makes bingo really unique. And Bry Guy with a questionable line during the choice walking there.
Very interesting. I think he got kind of messed up by the Jaxie being in his way. Very unfortunate circumstance. But
gonna give that another go.
Yeah, we're gonna go around the circle one more time here. He has marked off the Koopa Trace walking on his board, so it does look like the second time went a little bit better for him, but Yeah, just a little bit of a questionable circle there. More like a football, actually.
But he pulls off the 95 the second try around, so he's going to get some actually keep that goal marked off this time. So yeah, looking like potentially a road to for Bri.
Certainly, and we actually see Stravos in the shop. He just bought the crazy cap outfit, so it looks like he might be going for the purchase 4 costume sets square on the board, which can be kind of risky if you don't have very many coins. But also, if you're collecting some purples, it can make things a little bit easier. There doesn't actually appear to be very many purple coin options on this board. Actually, there's a couple.
Yeah, and Stravos kind of speaking about his experience with all purple coins category, saying that he felt very confident with purple coin routing in general. So that this board not being very purple coin heavy might be something that hurts him in the long run.
It's a potential, yes. I mean, it looks like he's already leaving sand. So we won't be seeing any row 2 ideas, maybe not even column 2. Still nothing on the board marked for Stravos yet, so it'll be kind of interesting to see which direction he takes this. I also didn't see him collect any other unique life up parts. The other thing about unique life up parts is that a lot of them are associated with bosses. I find that it's easy to combo life up parts with things like World Peace, because you kind of have to go through the areas right before bosses in order to complete World Peace, of course. But there is nothing quite like that on this board. There is one in Metro, but of course Metro is the slowest and least optimal choice. So maybe 6 unique life up parts, not something on his mind this time.
Yeah, and it's always unique to me and interesting when runners go for entirely opposing routes, because you'll see stuff like this where Bri Guy is still kind of strolling through Sand Kingdom and grabbing stuff that he needs there. Well, Stravos could potentially even make it all the way towards Wooded Kingdom by the time Bri Guy leaves here, just depending on what else he needs to do. But it doesn't mean Bri Guy is behind.
Yes.
As you could tell, like, he has 2 goals marked up on this board already, whereas Stravos has none. So when runners pick very different routes, it becomes very interesting to see where they meet up at the end and see how close they wind up being, because you can't really tell who has the lead for the entire match until you get to the end and they have very different routes. And Stravos is going to go for this late clip. He loves trying to show this off, and it doesn't look like he did exactly what he wanted to do, but let's see if he has an idea here.
He is going to get this treasure chest moon. I'm not sure if he was planning to go for the checkpoint up top.
I'm sure
probably.
he was.
Probably
just cutting his
missed the
losses there.
execution. And
He's going to take the long way through the tunnel, unfortunately.
choosing to swim out. I probably would have warped to the Odyssey personally, but
Yeah, possibly a better play there.
very an interesting choice anyways. And I have to pull us away from the bingo action for just a moment. It looks like Schultzar actually just dropped a massive donation to the GSA bingo tournament here. He's dropped 10,000 bits in the chat. Major shout outs to Schultzar. Thank you so much for the support. All of the proceeds that get donated through subscriptions and bits, donations, they go into the prize pool for this tournament. So every little bit really helps out these runners and their and their standings. So major kudos to Schultzar for that.
Yeah, we are seeing Bri Guy catch up in Lake Kingdom with Stravos. There is 18 moons in Lake that we could potentially see Bri Guy go for, which means he's probably going to take one little loop here, fight Rango, and then pull a second loop through the entire kingdom to collect all the moons that spawn after the boss fight.
Yes, and there are quite a few that kind of pop up that are much faster, but only appear after peace.
Also grabbing a life apart in the town here.
Yes, I think we're at 3 now. And we're not quite sure about the puzzle room yet. It could be very possible for Bri Guy to be going for that as well.
Another little storyline I'd like to bring up here. Stravos is undefeated in GSA tournament play.
This is very true.
He won the Any% tournament that was held, and he's sitting in finals of the World Peace Tournament, which will happen on Saturday. So he has yet to lose in any GSA competition for Speedrun Odyssey. So his play here could either end that streak, or it could prove that he really is becoming a god of bingo very quickly.
Just a legendary gamer, to be sure.
Now, certainly associated with getting world records in such categories as 90% world peace comes with a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work. So it shows that he has the ethic to become good at something. So it's all a matter of how he was able to employ that in a short amount of time, because he didn't do bingo at all until after this tournament was announced. So, you know, getting good enough to beat really the top level players in bingo in a matter of weeks is not an easy thing to do. But if anyone in the community could accomplish such a feat, you know, Stravos is at the top list.
I would believe that. I think that Stravos definitely has that kind of like obsessively determined kind of energy about him that, you know, if he really wants to accomplish something, he's just going to go 150% headfirst into it to make it happen. And that's part of the reason why, like, I'm almost scared to watch Stravos continue, because at the beginning of a tournament, he might not be as scary, but as it continues and he has more time to practice, he's just going to get much, much more dangerous. And, you know, perhaps facing Bry Guy in round 2 might actually be his downfall, but had he faced Bry Guy in maybe round 3 or 4, you know, it would definitely be a kind of a close call. But we'll just have to see about this one. It still could go either way. We just don't know.
Certainly. And that's part of the downside of not having done bingo before this tournament, was that we had nothing to seed him off of. So people who didn't have experience in bingo beforehand, you know, got put at the bottom of the seeding pool. And Bry Guy is one of the top seeds in this tournament. So just naturally, he's going to wind up playing a really good bingo player very early on in the tournament.
Very true.
Yeah, I would agree that kind of the longer he lasts in this tournament, the more dangerous he becomes, for sure. If he wins this match, it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see him maintain his undefeated streak all the way through this whole tournament.
Yeah, because he is definitely proven to just throw himself completely into whatever he's committed to.
So Bry Guy, you know, I said maybe we'll see Stravos wind up in Wooded Kingdom before Bry Guy ever leaves Sand, but Bry Guy is actually going to be the first one to leave Lake. That's just how bingo goes when you have different routes like this. You know, you never know what they're going to wind up doing. But again, it's really no indication of who's in the lead. With Bry Guy having 3 goals more than Stravos, we still couldn't say for certain that he definitively has a lead. It's just impossible. So Stravos finally marking his first goal there, the 16 moons in Lake.
Yeah, you're going to see that fishing moon is going to be his last one. Bry Guy not staying in Lake Kingdom long enough to get that particular goal, but he did do the puzzle room before leaving. So we're probably going to be seeing some column 2 ideas. He is approaching, or maybe not actually, World Peace restored in Metro. It's kind of hard to say. I kind of rag on that particular square, but you know, maybe Bry Guy, being the routing connoisseur that he is, maybe sees some value in that. It'll be hard to tell.
The only other thing he could possibly be doing is going for the top left to bottom right diagonal as well as a row 1.
Right.
That's the only other option for why he would have marked Scuba Trace walking in Sand. If he's not doing row 2, because he did not collect 18 Lake. And
correct.
Assuming that he's not going to make the decision to go or restore world peace in Metro, which you never know, he might, but I'm going to go ahead and wager that he's not going to go for that goal. So I'm looking for him to complete that diagonal as well as row 1, and then potentially column 5 would be the other option. Obvious option.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well, considering he has to make the visit to Seaside for those regionals. Getting those 5 ground-pound moons as well, not going to be too out of the way.
So Stravos going to make a cap revisit here. So as Bry Guy's route kind of starts to form for us, we'll see Stravos tip his hand and likely go for the 8 moons here, cap.
Let's see if he knows where they all are. I believe there's not that many more than 8 available in this kingdom.
I believe there's 10 or 11 total. So and then another kingdom where this goal cuts pretty close to how many moons are available but certainly doable without too much trouble.
Yeah, and if he's going for some sort of sub-area ideas, this is a good kingdom for that as well. There are 6 sub-area moons available in Cap Kingdom. This is also a very quick kingdom for any sort of purple coins as well, but again, there are no regional coin goals on the board here, so nothing like that going to be happening.
And the sub areas in... Oh, Stravo's going to take a spill in this sub area. It looks like he's maybe not as practiced. This is not a room that is really in any normal speedrun category outside of, you know, the completionist categories.
Yeah, that's right.
So maybe a little less experience with this room here. The sub areas, they're not the fastest, but they're also not the slowest.
Yeah.
Out of all the they're kind of middle of the road sub areas, I would say. The frog pond room is the fastest one in this kingdom, and it's, you know, it's still not great, but they're all like good enough that once you kind of combine them all together, it makes a cap visit sort of worth it if you do need a lot of sub areas.
Yeah, certainly.
And especially, you know, if you're combining it with getting 8 moons here, it's kind of a no-brainer. You actually can't get 8 moons in this kingdom if you don't go into the sub areas, so it's just a forced thing if you're going to go for those kind of goals.
Wow.
Early, still making it down to that bottom platform.
While Strav is taking a little jaunt through the Cat Kingdom, collecting all the sub-area moons, we see Bry Guy going through Wooded Kingdom, collecting a little bit extra moons along the way here, but more or less looks like he's on his way to Spewart in the regular any percent fashion. He does have some possibilities here if he's going for... actually, you know what? Only if he was going for column 2 would there be any like 6 moons from sub areas and wooded kind of ideas. But if he's going for row 1, he'll need some sub areas as well. This is kind of another kingdom with a lot of fast sub areas, notably the pipeway that they do in any percent, as well as the elevator escalation room, very quick sub areas. So we might see him go for some of those ideas.
And a strategy that I've seen employed is in Wooded Kingdom, there is the elevator escalation room as well as the flower path room that are right next to each other.
Right.
I've seen people get only the first moons in both of those sub areas.
Oh.
Because doing that is faster than doing any single room. So if you only need a couple of extra sub area moons, that's kind of a little tip for you bingo beginners out there. Getting
Yeah, you
those
don't necessarily need them all in the same room, I guess.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that really could benefit you in bingo, is just sort of creative routing like that. It's very niche knowledge. There's stuff that is good in bingo that is really not ever useful in any other circumstance. So that's kind of a big part of why you see, in my mind, different people being at the top level of bingo compared to top level of more traditional speedrun categories. Is it just takes like a whole different kind of knowledge of the game, and as well as just like using the same knowledge in different ways.
Yeah, a slightly different approach and like perhaps different creativity.
Certainly. And Stravos gonna go for the actual frog strats in the frog pond room.
It's very interesting, and it kind of, you know, plays into the lack of knowledge, I think. You know, as an AUM runner, I'm kind of cringing having to watch him approach it this way, but just, you know, taking a couple of well-timed cap jumps can usually get you up to these places just the same way, but Stravos opting to use the frog just out of unfamiliarity mostly, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's really shown in these cap sub-areas, just a prime example of different kinds of knowledge shining through between these two runners. You know, pretty much all of these sub areas, they're not really seen much of anywhere outside of bingo. So with Stravos being a short category runner, these aren't rooms that he ever really has had a reason to get good at or learn the proper move for. But you know, he'll have to allow his movement in other areas to shine through in order to make up for it. But he does finish getting 8 moons in Cap Kingdom, which is his second goal on this board. Still not too obvious what kind of route he'd be going for. It's kind of interesting. Sometimes you really can't tell. You can't say for certain what somebody's going for until like Metro Kingdom times, which is really late. Like a lot of bingos finish in Metro Kingdom.
Yep, it's true.
But like when you have a lot of goals that are just gonna finish around the same time, it's hard to know like what people are actually thinking.
Yep, and especially in a situation with Stravos, you know, his current goals don't align in any sort of way yet. You can kind of pick out some of the things he's probably not doing, like 20 regional coins in Lake. He's already past the point, and the sand. So, you know, that might make you believe that he might be doing some sort of column 2 or maybe bottom left to top right ideas. But he's also not been going out of his way to get any life up hearts. So, very interesting development there. It kind of makes you wonder. Also, Guy looks like he actually did take more or less the 80% route through Wooded. He's not actually going to be going through any extra content. He's going directly to Cloud Kingdom instead.
Yeah, I would expect him to possibly just finish off his sub areas in either Metro or Seaside.
Yes, and like you said, I think the entire 14 moons from sub areas can be completed in Metro alone, so that would make sense. And like we mentioned at the very beginning, this is a rather heavy lost board. There's one in the corner and one in the middle. And if he is doing what we predict here, top left, bottom right, as well as row 1 and column 5, that would kind of check off all of the big lost goals on this board. So he might be spending quite a bit of time in lost, but it will accomplish quite a bit for him.
Yeah, it might have been a situation where he also looked at the center square and saw what it was and kind of routed around that. So I feel like a lot of times that's kind of how routes formulate either one or two ways for me. Either it's a process of elimination of marking a lot of goals that I definitely don't want to do if I can avoid them and kind of routing around them, or just seeing one goal that's in like a really good position that I really want to complete and creating my whole route around that one goal. So
Right.
it could be the kind of situation where he saw that center square being what it is and decided to loop in all the other Lost Kingdom goals he could find and create his route around those 3 goals.
Yeah, a potentially smart idea as well. You know, sometimes it doesn't really work out that way. Sometimes you kind of get unlucky, and the goals that you do enjoy are surrounded by things that you absolutely do not. But
So Stravos actually collected a life apart there. The tower
so
of
maybe
Wooded
he is.
Kingdom. So
Maybe he's going for it.
either he's going for it and maybe has somewhat shaky knowledge. With that life apart goal, it's relatively new to bingo. It's not a goal that we've had forever, but at the same time, Stravos is also new to bingo, so not necessarily something that would be messing with him. But he might not have the greatest knowledge of where all the life aparts are, because he did skip over 1 or 2. That probably would have been good to get. Getting 6 is not... You can miss some, but if you miss fast ones, you're going to replace it with something much, much slower later
Yeah.
on.
Like we mentioned, the life up hearts are usually associated with bosses. So in the case of like Sand Kingdom, for example, those ones, aside from the slots one, are kind of out of the way. You do have to go into the pyramid for the one that's near Harriet. You have to go into the hole in the nighttime portion of Sand in order to get the one that is before Knuckle Attack. Those are very slow, out of the way. If you don't have many like Sand Moon goals, then it's probably not going to be worth to try and go for those. And then, you know, of course, if you're not getting the fast ones in Cascade and in Cap and in Lake, then you're definitely running out of options. And I think I've only seen Stravos get 2, and that's the one in Cap and the one here. So, you know, very slim pickings as far as the remaining life parts are concerned.
Certainly, and it's the kind of thing where you really want to avoid missing out on so many that you have to backtrack to an earlier kingdom in order to complete a goal. That kind of stuff can really hurt you in bingo, because it can be a multiple minute affair to go back to any given kingdom and get to where you need to go, just depending on the circumstance.
Yeah, even if it's just for one thing.
Yeah, because for instance, if you get 8 moons in Seaside Kingdom, like is a goal on this board, and then you realize you have to backtrack to complete your triple bingo, you're gonna have to go through the cutscenes of dumping those moons from Seaside. If you had something like a 10 moon in Seaside goal, you would have to dump those moons and sit through the cutscene for unlocking Snow Kingdom before you could backtrack to wherever you need to go. So just depending on the circumstance, it can be very punishing to have to backtrack unnecessarily. And Stravos picks up another life up heart there, so I think that more or less confirms that he is indeed going for the 6 life up hearts.
Yeah, I think that kind of solidifies it, in fact. So he probably will be going for some bottom left, top right ideas here, going into this sub area as well. Not sure if that's for any sub area goals, but we'll see if he employs that strategy we're talking about earlier, going into both of the sub areas, or if he's going to kind of take the longer approach and go all the way through.
Yeah, it looks like he'll go all the way through this room, but this room being an auto scroller of sorts, you have to wait a really long time for this flower path to reach all the way at the end, and there's not really any way to speed it up. That's a big part of why grabbing the first in 2 sub areas here winds up being a lot faster if you only need a couple. You know, if you have a really high sub area requirement, then you might have to wind up going through the entirety of both of these rooms anyway. But
Yeah.
I'd say in this situation, this would be a good time to employ that kind of strategy if you know about it.
Yeah, that one actually kind of takes me by surprise. I do not usually opt to go into the flower run at all because of that auto-scrolling kind of mechanic. I do, however, do the elevator escalation room to its entirety just because there is kind of a fast way of employing that room. If you know kind of what you're doing, you don't have to kind of take a Sherm the entire way through and make it a little bit faster. Let's see if Stravos knows what he's doing, because it looks like he's going to be entering here.
So he's actually going to not get the first moon in this area. It might be for... Or is he going to try to shoot it from all the way down here? I don't think that
maybe
works.
He must have forgotten.
Yeah, he may have just forgotten about it temporarily. We'll see. Maybe he'll re-enter the room and try to get it. Or maybe just cut his losses and grab a elsewhere.
Yeah, and you can see here that some of that unfamiliarity is coming into play here. He's taking the tank all the way across this sub area. Sometimes you can forget that uncapturing is a thing that you can do. The best thing to do is to kind of shoot the cage during the Firebro area, hop out, and just roll across the rest of the stage much, much faster to travel as Mario than it is as a tank. So it does look like he's going to be spinning his way back into that room just to capture that last one. But yeah, it just all comes down to that knowledge of the game and like understanding how to use it to the best of your ability as well.
And it could also be a situation where maybe he has the knowledge. Like, it seems like he knew where this moon was, but he may have been so wrapped up in his head with figuring out what he needs to accomplish, just, you know, thinking about his goals in general. That it's a lot to keep track of in your head. So while you're thinking about all of that, you can sometimes just forget to do something. You know, forget to tell your hands to do something the way that it needs to be done. So possibly just getting lost in his own mind there as he entered that sub area the first time. But he is marking off the 6 sub areas in Wooded Goal.
Yeah, and we see him entering the pipeway here, so those were deliberate.
Getting the both moons in those areas was, I believe, actually the optimal play, because without fighting Spubert in Wooded Kingdom, those really are the only 3 you have access to.
Yeah, I do believe you're right.
So not a situation where he could kind of get cute with his strats. Right guy's all the way in Metro now.
Yes, and this is like, it kind of plays into what you were saying about like not really knowing where the lead lies, because Bry Guy was in Sand Kingdom for quite a while Stravos was taking quite a kingdom advantage, but you can see that the difference is changing here. He is all done with Lost Kingdom. He kind of wrapped up all of the Lost achievements that we did think he was going to go for. And Stravos is kind of taking his time in Wooded. I think that he has a lot of his goals here. He might be going for some shiny rock ideas. And
I find that oftentimes in Bingo, you wind up having either a very heavy Sand Kingdom or a very heavy Wooded Kingdom. Those are the 2 most frequent kingdoms that I find myself spending a lot of time in. And it looks like on this board in particular, Bry Guy spends quite a bit of time in Sand, and Stravos is going to spend a lot of time in Wooded. So kind of true to form, something you can expect from Bingo. These 2 kingdoms have a lot of goals associated with them, whether kingdom specific or just a lot of stuff that can be completed for multi-kingdom goals. A lot of it happens in those 2 kingdoms. So you see Stravos marking off a slew of goals here. He was able to overlap those sub-area goals in Wooded on his route, as well as getting 2 shiny moons, or shiny rock moons. There are 2 available in Wooded. There are only 3 available in entirety of the context of Bingo, so that is a really good goal to finish in Wooded as well.
Absolutely.
And the other one actually being very slow because it requires a backtrack to Cascade Kingdom. It's not available on the first visit because it sits underneath where the Odyssey is parked when you first start the game. So you have to go travel back so that you can access that rock later.
Yeah, and you know, backtracking is not usually the recommended, but it can line up in situations where maybe you need to buy lots of stickers. You can collect some really fast purple coins in Cascade, buy the sticker while you're there, get the shiny rock while you're there. There's a couple of things that require a Cascade revisit, so if you can kind of pile those together, then it's worth it, but
Sure.
usually...
I think conventional wisdom is you want to avoid backtracks unless you're backtracking for multiple goals, or you're backtracking in order to avoid traveling to an extra kingdom at the end. So if you can backtrack once to avoid Snow and Seaside, then it's usually a good idea. Let's see if Bry Guy can clutch out this 2-cycle Wiggler here. Looks like he's going to.
Did snipe the last hit there.
Can be very tricky to hit this boss in the minimal number of phases, but cleans it up.
And I did see him grab the unique life hope of heart right before the boss fight here. I believe he's at 5 now. Going to be looking to just grab 1 more. And as we see that Stravos has marked off a bunch of things on this board, it's starting to become a little bit more clear what he is attempting to do here. He's out of Lake and didn't grab any regionals, so column 1 is off the table, but it does look like he might be going for some bottom left, top right ideas. With the unique life up hearts, he's going to have to be very, very careful to grab the ones that remain if he wants to complete that one effectively.
And he did purchase a costume earlier, so I'd expect him to be going for row 3 and probably row 5 then, which means
right.
he possibly may have routed with the same premise as Bry Guy. Like, they may have both routed around those Lost Kingdom goals, but just taking very different approaches to how they mix them together.
That's true, and I think I mean, I think that Bry Guy has the better idea here, because I look at World Peace in Metro, and it kind of makes me shiver a little bit. However, with this particular route, it looks like Stravos will be able to finish with the festival, which is probably the optimal way of going about doing that goal.
Absolutely.
So we'll just have to see which comes out on top here. I think that Bry Guy's going to be spending a little bit less time in Metro in order to finish the route out in Seaside, and we'll see if that's going to be fast enough in the end.
So yeah, there's kind of a standard where finishing on certain goals can make them much faster than having to do stuff afterwards, because getting World Peace in Metro, all it requires is you to grab that last multi-move from the festival. So, but in a situation where you have to complete something afterwards, you then have to sit through the cutscene that plays after you collect the multi-moon, and then go do whatever you need to do. So
Right.
all that kind of stuff, like, it's, you know, the bingo routing goes as deep as finding the optimal way to finish your route sometimes.
Yeah, and that's basically why this World Peace Metro should end the route, is because of all of that extra time spent sitting there waiting for these cutscenes to happen. Not to mention that it is kind of a very story-heavy kingdom in general. You have to not only revert the entire system of the kingdom from night to day, but then you have to go and collect the band, and you have to go into the sewer, and you have to do the festival. It's just a very story-heavy kingdom, so you really have to make it count if you're going to go for a goal like that.
So yeah, I think we're going to see Bry Guy grabbing a life apart from slots here. Yes, that's exactly like what we'll do. Misses on the first try, so he's going to have to do that again.
Some unfortunate little mess up there.
Can be kind of awkward to do this because we're so used to getting them from here as opposed to the life apart, so it might kind of throw you off trying to get the timing for this. And looks like he's going to get it on the third try there.
There we go.
So that is his 6th life apart. And while he's in here, it looks like he's also going to grab the moon.
That was a really weird timing there, but...
Just kind of giving up there, having some struggles with slots.
I'm sure he'll be able to find some other moons just fine.
Yeah, there are plenty of other fast enough moons in Metro Kingdom, but he shouldn't need that slots moon.
And if he is going for row 1, which I believe that we've kind of figured out that's his idea, he is going to need some moons from sub areas, so we'll probably see him stopping in a couple of those while he's here. And I have seen him buying some stickers as well, so row 1 does look like it's on the table.
Yeah, stickers, another thing. Everything purple coin related, it's just really generally bingo specific knowledge as well, because it's one thing to collect purple coins like you would do in an all purple coins category, but knowing how to spend them and what everything costs is really crucial to your routing for some of these goals. So if you don't know how much it costs to collect a sticker in any given kingdom, you might over collect coins, or you might under collect coins and enter a shop thinking you have enough. You really don't, and wind up having to exit the shop, collect more coins, come back to get your sticker later. So another bit of knowledge that knowing how the shops work, what everything costs, purple coin wise, is really beneficial knowledge for bingo.
Certainly. And not necessarily difficult knowledge to pick up, but yeah, definitely a costly mistake that you can make if you're not totally familiar with it.
Yeah, nothing bingo related, nothing bingo specific is terribly difficult to learn. It's just a matter of spending the time doing it, just because it is so bingo specific oftentimes. So we're going to see Stravos likely collecting 18 moons here in Lost Kingdom.
Just about climbing up there, just missing the jump. Kind of a tricky jump. Much easier to just take the Talkatoo platform in order to get up there. We do see Guy marking off the 6 checkpoints in Metro there, so definitely going for that diagonal top left, bottom right. He's basically just going to be making his way through the kingdom and finding the remaining... Ooh, taking a bonk there. Ooh, and it's just saving himself on the ledge. But finishing up the sub-areas for his total 14. There it is marked, actually.
Yeah, and these 2 moons also being the last 2 that he needs in order to leave Metro Kingdom, so well routed from Guy, getting just the right number of moons in order to leave, while also completing the goals that he needed. So it looks like, realistically, he just needs to collect some regional points in Seaside as well as some ground pound moons. And, on his way to the ground pound moons, he'll have more than enough purples in his way to get to 25. There's 100 total in the kingdom, so they're relatively above in Seaside, and then he'll just have to make his way to the shop and likely finish his route buying that last sticker, assuming that he does have 4.
Yes, I imagine that he would have picked those up along the way. Lost and Lake and Wooded, I believe, are the kingdoms that he's already purchased them in, and then Metro just now as well. So Seaside being his last stop. And yeah, it's probably going to be just a quick jaunt around the kingdom, picking up purple coins and getting some of those underground water ground
We're
pound.
looking at potentially a sub 50 finish for Guy as well, which is generally a really excellent time in bingo. Not to the point where not every board is capable of achieving it, I would say.
Yes.
You need the board to be somewhat in your favor, as well as have pretty good execution on your route in order to get a sub 50 kind of time. So depending on how confident he is in making his way to finish up these last goals in Seaside Kingdom. Stravos going for an interesting strat right here. Warping back up to the top after grabbing that moon.
Very, very clever.
But he did miss out on the moon in the 2D section.
Yeah, so he's going to have to make up for that one in some other way. Being very careful here to trigger Klepto anytime he warps. Of course, very smart idea.
So I think this right here just being a bit of a gap in Stravos' knowledge, knowing the optimal way to collect so many points in Lost Kingdom. Something that a longer category runner would certainly benefit from, because oftentimes do collect the majority of these moons that are available first visit in Lost Kingdom. in those kind of categories.
Certainly. I think probably the best category that would benefit you as far as moon routing. Oh, and actually, I kind of have to eat my own words here. Stravos is going to be triggering Klepto here. Kind of a big mistake, unfortunately. Gonna have to climb all the way back up and take him. But the best category for bingo as far as moon collecting would go, I'd have to say is no all moons, no post game, probably, because even in some of the shorter categories, you are collecting the bare minimum amount of moons to leave, and then in the longer categories, it's kind of jumbled up within these post-game moons, which some of them are faster to collect first visit, second visit, even third visit, right? So
Sure.
it really does no post-game is probably the best category as far as like being able to zip around the kingdom and collect the fastest moons available.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And yeah, triggering Klepto there, depending on where you land and what causes it to happen, that can lose you anywhere from like 45 seconds to a minute. So definitely not the kind of mistake that you want to be making.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
So it looks like he's struggling a little bit to get these last 2 moves that he needs. You know, as we said, with it being relatively tight as far as moon count goes in Lost Kingdom, you can miss some, but you know, you can't skip the fast ones, and he is going to come back possibly for this sub area or for this 2D moon. This is definitely one of the ones that you want to be getting if you're getting 18 moon Lost, one of the faster ones available.
Oh, certainly.
So he will need one more in order to leave, and then really all he needs is to get World Peace and Metro, as well as some extra moons and such. I'm sure he can get a life apart along the way. But, you know, Bry Guy coming in here, quickly approaching his finish. Not going to be sub 50, but he is very close. As I think he just needs this last move here. He's already got his stickers.
Yeah, and he's already collected his purple coins. The last ground pound move there by look. And he's going to be
Maybe he is
basically finishing up.
still. Yep. So yeah, Bry Guy going to finish with a time in the high 50 minutes. A really good time for any bingo board, I would say. Anytime you approach sub 50, you're pretty happy with performance.
Most certainly, especially a board that finishes in Seaside. Very solid time.
Yeah, Seaside and Snow finishes in particular to get sub 40 on is even more rare. That generally comes from an early visit. But yeah, Bry Guy gonna take this one home. Stravos with the confidence, but Bry Guy with the results today.
Yeah, most certainly showing his bingo knowledge and kind of flexing it, and proving that he might be a little bit rusty at the execution of certain tricks and movement strategies, but you know, at the end of the day, definitely coming out on top with his knowledge of routing. And we can see that Stravos is going for some interesting flying around the kingdom here strategies. But yeah, I think that Stravos it appears that he's going to be tapping out.
And we have both runners in the call with us now. So first off, Bry Guy, congratulations on your win. You'll be advancing to round 3 of this tournament. How did you feel about your route, your gameplay today, just in general? How'd you feel?
Well, thank you. I felt like my route was solid. My gameplay was obviously lacking in some aspects. There was miss and trace walking. Those slots were not the best. A couple of bonks here and there. But overall, like, it went about as well as my practices. But yeah, I felt like my route was pretty clean. This board like really scared me looking at it. There were so many like extra moon goals, like going back to Cap or World Peace Metro or like. So I don't know. I was trying to just really minimize my moon count, and when I realized that you either had to go to like 24 moons Metro or get to Seaside, then I was just like, okay, I'm going to Seaside. What are the fewest moons that I can get here?
Yeah, a good approach to take. We were kind of theorizing that perhaps you were routing around those Lost Kingdom goals, since they were, they took up the center square and they were kind of abundant on this board. Was that a thought at all in your routing process, or was it more so just everything you said there?
Yeah, not so much Lost. I think Lost is one of the fastest kingdoms to get extra moons in, just because it's so
Yeah.
compact.
Certainly.
And it went nicely with Captain Toad and the regionals there. I did forget about stickers. That almost got me. Like when I was leaving Sand, I was like, oh no, I need 5 stickers, but realized I still had 5 kingdoms left. I
Yeah,
think I
that's-
maybe would have picked up one in Sand if I had remembered.
It's sometimes tough to keep track of everything you need to do, but this board also wasn't too heavy on multi-king goals that you had to keep track of long term, so perhaps a bit easier on that end.
Definitely.
But yeah, and we also have Stravos in here. The Stravos, bit of a rough finish in Lost Kingdom there. Looks like perhaps you could brush up on
To be
collecting.
honest, I just lost heart. Like, I had kind of the opposite strategy. I saw so many juicy high moon count goals, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do all of these.
Perhaps not the
And-
best strategy unless you can overlap it with a high total moon count goal. That oftentimes winds up
So-
happening.
In the first in like the pregame interview, I was acting cocky, hopefully to scare and intimidate the Dry Guy. That was my strategy.
The mind
I don't know
game.
if you guys picked up on that, but I was not ready. I was not ready for this at all.
Well, I would say a noble effort nonetheless.
Yeah.
Just it is something that takes time. It's different. Trying to route for bingo, it's very different just doing traditional speed runs. So something I believe, no doubt, that you could get good at if you felt the urge to. But yeah, perhaps learning today that it takes more than a couple weeks to come top level at this kind of thing.
Yeah, my strategy was kind of just like hope that I get lucky with a good card that I could easily read, and also to hope that I come up with good lines quickly so that I'm not sitting still for 10 minutes.
Sure. And I know you said you're really confident on purple coin related goals, and unfortunately this board wasn't very heavy on it. So do you think that kind of hurt you a little bit?
For sure. There were also a lot of weird decisions that I wasn't ready to be able to make for like figuring out which would actually be faster. So I just did something that I felt like I was most comfortable with, and I made a lot of weird decisions and mistakes. Like for a moment, I thought, like, I knew it wasn't this, but I thought the 24 moons in Metro was wooded for a bit, so I collected so many extra moons.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't do enough planning and figuring out the board before I had already started, which I kind of needed to be fast enough. So it was just a risk I took, and I kind of lost heart halfway through and kind of lost my movement skill and stuff too.
Well, I hope you had a good experience with the bingo tournament. I would love to see more top any percent sort of runners take part in these kinds of things, because I think it's interesting to see how the skill set can translate if they put in some work here. So yeah, I hope you
fun.
stick around
just...
and join some bingo related stuff in the future.
It's just triple bingo is a little bit too much to look at for me. I can't handle it. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, it is a lot to take in. But Dangers, do you have any other questions or thoughts for these two runners?
I think that pretty much sums it up. I think that I agree. I think that there is definitely a place for some of the tech that is associated with very high level standard run situations. I think that if you are perhaps doing the same route as your opponent and you are just the better mover, you're obviously going to come out on top in a situation like that. But bingo is certainly a different beast, and it really does come down to kind of a more creative knowledge of the game rather than a technical knowledge. And I think that is kind of the summary of this particular match here. So GG's to both of you runners, and congratulations to Bry Guy for moving on to the next round.
And just one closing thought before we go. Stravos, this is your first loss in GSA competition.
Yeah.
So a very impressive streak that you upheld there for a while, but
yeah, for sure.
Unfortunately, it will come to an end, but you'll get your chance at redemption in the World Peace Finals.
Yeah. This
Coming
way, any future losses don't feel as strong because I can just say, "Oh well, no, way back when, that bingo tournament that I wasn't prepared for. That was my first loss."
Exactly.
go.
We'll start a new streak, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up for us here tonight. Thank you everybody for watching. There will be more, as I said on Saturday, there is the World Beast Finals, and we'll have plenty of more bingo action. This tournament is just sort of getting started. This was the first match of round 2, so plenty more bingo action to come over the next few weeks here. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will catch you later.
Take care, everyone.